2023 just refuses to stop with gigantic gaming hits. In this episode, we share our review of Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon, and whether this punishingly difficult mech game is worth your sanity. Later, Arief gives us the latest on Magic the Gathering and his experience at the recent pre-release day of Wilds of Eldraine. Lastly, we have some exciting news to share. We're taking 20M on the road and international. Stay tuned on where you'll be seeing us in the next few months. This is the 20M Podcast. Welcome to the 20M Podcast, the show about video games and the people behind them. I am your host, Rino. I'm here today with Arief.
Hello.
I normally go say hi, Arief, but you don't like that, so I've stopped. But now you're not picking up.
I've recognized it. Honestly, Rino, I really appreciate it. I recognize it. I feel like we're evolving as the podcast, grows, and also as hosts. So thank you for not asking me, because I'll just tell everybody here on the podcast, right? It's like every single time you ask me, it's like, say hi, Arief, or hi, Arief. I'm like, I just feel like I'm a dog in a cage that's like, do a trick on the podcast, please, So that's where I get the frustration from. Just needed to air it out.
Well, I mean, if that was the trick, like I think we need to teach you a couple more. Right?
Okay, that's a little bit offensive.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I maybe just to give an update for everybody, like we've been playing so many games and we're thick in this like season that I feel like is almost akin to June, where the summer Game Fest, summer like period was all over the place. But I've been playing so many games and I can't wait to talk about it. But I'm on a high because earlier this week, I got the New Jeans McDonald's collaboration and I got the little bag. So I'm just happy. I'm playing games. I ate the New Jeans McDonald's collab and I've just been on such a nice, happy like week, but also with a lack of sleep and just like absolutely losing my mind. So
can I ask, did you keep the bag for like personal reasons, that because you like New Jeans, or because of resale value at some point?
I don't want to talk about it. No, I just think it's such a cool thing. It's like, I do love New Jeans. So like the jokes aside, like I do love their music, and I think it's an awesome project and it's like true artistry. But I just think it's super cool to have something like this in the off chance I ever meet New Jeans. Be like, I've been there since the OG. You know what I mean?
Been there.
Not that this is
McDonald's.
OG. This is like hyper mainstream now, but like whatever.
What was the meal? Like what was
it? Was a chicken sandwich wrap with a hash brown in it, which is really cool because you never get to have a hash brown after the morning period at McDonald's. So it's like a revolutionary piece. And you got like a Fanta, I can't remember what flavored Fanta, but then you also get seaweed mixed shaker fries, man, which is like the perfect thing here in Malaysia. Just going a little rant about like the best McDonald's meal ever, or the best McDonald's creation ever is McShaker fries, where you put a fry, like a giant pack of fries in a bag, little like powdered packets of flavor, and then you shake and then you eat it. It's perfect.
I do like the shaker fries. I do, but the best McDonald's dish on the menu in Malaysia is bubur ayam McD.
Oh my god, that's a hot take, man.
So
what?
Good.
I thought you were gonna say the ayam goreng. You know what I mean?
Oh, like the spicy ayam goreng. No, it's the bubur ayam McD. Every
oh
time
my god,
at the airport, it's so comforting.
Who agreed? Like, where's the 20M YouTube? Like, I wish we were doing these live. You know what I mean? It's like, drop a comment below. What's the best Malaysian McDonald's like meal, right? Unique to Malaysia, because there's no way anybody would agree with you.
Yes, either that or the Prosperity Burger. I think that's
Prosperity Burger that's a better take. Yeah, the curly fries.
Curly fries. Yeah. So food aside, just kind of like diving back into games. What have you been playing? Like, what's been on your radar this past couple weeks?
Yeah, maybe we can start with the first game that I've been like chugging my way through and like really making progress on, which is Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. We've been playing it. I say we, it's just me. We've been playing it on the podcast as a podcast, but it's just like one of us. The lovely folks at Bandai Namco sent over an awesome package. I think we alluded to that last time on the podcast, but I think I have it here, where they gave us the controller case. That's an exclusive limited edition thing for Southeast Asia purchases. But they were also kind enough to send us a code to stream. So I streamed it on my personal channel, and then also we wanted to make sure we get the review. But I'll just say right off the bat that like this game is long and hard, like just challenging to the point where it's just like I lost my mind. So we are late on this review from what I intended it to be, but I wanted to talk about it nonetheless because I finally finished the game. So I want to talk a little bit about Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon.
Yeah, so I don't know much about it, and I just have to say, like, I'm like after seeing everyone's takes on it, I'm really glad that you've sacrificed your sanity and your sleep to this, and not me, because it looks really tough. The only two takes I've seen on Twitter so far is one, it's so difficult, it's not even challenging, it just makes me sad, like that side of things, and the other side is, oh my god, I built my dream mecha, like, oh, I feel like Shinji, or like, oh, my Gundam childhood is coming back. So you've got like two different camps of people being excited and depressed at the same time.
Yeah.
But maybe like just a really like basic, simple example. Like what is the game about? What is the premise for folks who don't know what Armored Core is?
Yeah, this is a funny one for me because I'm actually I'll start with the caveat that this is my first ever Armored Core game, right? And I think for most people this would be a really solid entry point because it's been a very long time since the previous entry of Armored Core. It's one of those franchises that were pretty rampant in like the early 2000s, I would say, but then kind of died off as From Software, who are the main developers of this game, changed their format to move into Dark Souls and the Souls-like type video games, and then now they brought Armored Core back. But I would say Armored Core is basically, like, in a nutshell, from what I understand it, it's a mecha. It's just like a mecha simulator where you play as these things called armored cores, which are robots that I believe are augmented humans inside these robots, where you can upgrade your armored core, your AC, and go through missions that are thrusted upon you within every game. To my understanding, each game is different, so you don't have to play 1, 2, 3 in subsequent. So you know what I mean? They're all kind of like standalone versions, but they're all part of the same world and lore. But Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is a story that is, how do I start this? Basically, like, you play it as a mercenary or like a gun for hire, if you will. And you are an AC, you are an armored core, and you basically get quests from a multitude of different factions that are basically looking to this planet called Rubicon 3 that was recently discovered that there was a resource that's on this planet that is essential for, I guess, like, energy production in a nutshell, right? So this material called coral was discovered on this planet, and now a bunch of corporations are trying to excavate the planet for their own needs, and that is basically like the general premise of the game. And you play as a mercenary that either follows, like, the wills of one group or another to further the story. The reason why I'm being a little bit coy here with like the premise is that I think Armored Core is one of those ones where the story is just like other Souls games. It's kind of like in the background. It's not so much in your face. It is more in your face than other Souls, other FromSoft games that I've played. But it's one of those ones where I don't want to talk about it because it's such a cool experience to go through the game and think it's like, oh, I'm just a robot and I'm destroying things, to like, oh, this thing happens. Or like, oh, this realization, like, oh, this is what this character's actual motivations are. Or, oh, this is what this corporation believes in versus this corporation believes in. This is what that mercenary like is fighting for versus this freedom fighter. So I don't want to talk too much about the story of Armored Core 6 because it is surprisingly like interesting, like very, very interesting for me. But that's a general premise of Armored Core.
That's super cool. I guess, yeah, like just from looking at screenshots and stuff, you don't really expect a lot of story from it, unfortunately, but like just on impressions. But it, like, from what you're saying, there is quite a bit of narrative to it. But gameplay wise, like, what are we looking at here? So you can upgrade your mech, and are you fighting like hordes? Are you fighting like big evil bosses? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, I'll go through the gameplay loop, which is, I think, is like one of the more interesting things about this, which both has positives and negatives, right? But in Armored Core 6, basically, you go through, it's all mission oriented. So you start in a menu screen where you can upgrade your mech, and there's a shop where you can buy new like body parts, as well as guns and all the upgrades for your AC. But you start in that menu screen, and then you choose a little mission menu, and then you go to the next mission. And the gameplay oscillates between choosing one, like your story missions, versus choosing just like basically mini arcade boss like section called the arenas, where if the more you go down the arenas, the more upgrades you can get for your AC. But you basically just oscillate between the two, and it's all just done via one menu. So it's quite interesting here because I've read a couple of reviews and I've seen a couple of reviews in the past where it's like this brings back that like PlayStation 2 era of like, or PlayStation 1 era of like everything is just super simple and streamlined. It's not like an open world. It's not like you go fetch these things, you have side quests and all these things. It's all just like side quest fight or main mission fight, and that's it, But that's the basic like entry to the gameplay. But then on a game by game, like minute to minute kind of thing, is you're controlling the armored core in a third person perspective, and you're going through hordes, if you will. Basically, the basic formula is like going through hordes, and then you end up with a boss fight for most missions. And I would say the highlight of it is that like there's so much variety in the like weapons that you can use. So therefore, even if you're fighting a horde or even if you're fighting a boss, every mission could be different based off of your build. And the build of your AC can change between things that are like projectile based, that are melee based, that are energy based. But all of this culminates in a way that you are just controlling what it feels like you are in a giant robot, just messing things up and like screwing people over and shredding things apart. And I think that's the coolest part about the gameplay of it, where it's like, even though probably, you know, the videos that you've seen of gameplay, it's like the mech does look small because it's third person, which is kind of funny. But when you're into it on a minute to minute perspective, it genuinely feels like you're piloting it, because the UI system is so, it takes a bit of getting used to because it's a little bit complicated. You don't really understand it. They don't fully describe it, but it looks like you're in the UI of the mech itself, despite being in third person. And you keep going through the gameplay. I'll end this like little gameplay spiel by saying one of the best things about Armored Core in its gameplay is just so core, pun intended there, FromSoft, where the boss fights are mind-blowingly like FromSoft, where they come out of nowhere sometimes, and they're so epic, and the music hits, and it's just like a variety of weapons that are annoyingly difficult, but yet like you kind of see the patterns going on. And it's just one of the coolest things, where I'm more familiar with these Souls type games, but to see that in a mech world in this type of format is just something that is so special, that you can still feel the DNA of Souls. The last thing I'll say about this one is I saw a really interesting tweet from, I think, Gene Park, and I think it was a reference to another tweet. I can't remember what it was, right? But I think he mentioned that Souls are actually Armored Core games. And it's not that Armored Core 6 is a Souls game, is that the Souls franchise took inspiration from what the Armored Core is in a nutshell, and then brought it over to this new format. So it's kind of like this interesting thing of game history, where like FromSoft started with Armored Core, and then they used that to build the Souls games, but they blew up because of the Souls games, and now people think Armored Core 6 is like a Souls games. But what is the progenitor of that? It's actually Armored Core. So things like, you know, encumbrance, where your mech is too heavy, where it's like sometimes it's slower versus faster depending on the parts and you're doing, the customization of builds, the melee, the boss fights, like all of it is just, I'm just going to say it's not Souls, it's not Armored Core, it's just FromSoft, and it's awesome, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was what I was going to ask you about, like this whole thing with how the boss fights are really difficult. And like you said, maybe it's just more like the newer generation of gamers who did not have this history, who are calling Armored Core like the mecha Souls like, but they don't have the context of it. So it's like really, really interesting to hear. But yeah, like in your playthrough, did you find it? I know you sent me a couple messages being like, "Oh, I'm so frustrated. Oh, I'm so angry. I haven't been this tilted in a while." And then I would see tweets from like other journals playing it, just being like, "Man, like it's not even about the challenge anymore. It's just like praying to RNG gods that like the boss is like 5 millimeters more to the right this time, and therefore I can actually avoid it or something." Like, did you find it like punishingly difficult at times?
Absolutely. And to the point where I'm so glad I only streamed one session of this, because I got viscerally angry. They're like, and Souls does that to you. Like Souls games do that, like have done that to me in the past, where you're so flipping angry, right? But it's so funny that like this one, I have the thought of throwing my controller against the wall, and I've never been that kind of player, right? I know I had friends who have like they're a little bit more angrier growing up. They just throw their PS2 controller or whatever. I would never do that, right? This one has got me towards that edge where I was like, this 350 ringgit PS5 controller can go to hell. You know what I mean? I was debating throwing it against the wall.
So that's what the case was for. They give it to you so you can put the controller in
the Armored Core controller case so that you can throw this against the wall versus
and the controller is still protected, but you can take your anger out on it.
Yeah. No, I think like, so a couple things to this, right? Yes, it is very difficult. And yes, there are moments where I'll just do the like transparency around it. It's like, we wanted to get this review out, and I'm frustrated that like I couldn't finish the game in time because it was so hard, where I'm like, it's one of those scenarios where I booked out, let's say like 6 hours on a weekend, like on a Saturday, to play through this game to try and finish it. And 75% of that time was spent on one boss fight. Like, and again, that is, it's one of those things where like, it's my fault, I guess, for wanting to have that expectation to finish it at a certain time, like as somebody who wanted to review this game. But it goes back to the beauty of Souls. It's like, that's just the experience. Sorry, the beauty of like a FromSoft game, which is like, that's just how their games work. I'll share this like one thing where this is maybe what epitomizes these fights in Armored Core and general Souls games, which I forgot, where there was one boss fight that took me 3 hours. I had one build that I built almost through my entire time up until that game, and I was doing this boss fight over and over and over and over again, and it got to the point where you could just easily restart the boss fight because if it's a checkpoint, right? It got to the point where if I get hit within the first second, I would restart it because I was like, I need to dodge there, right? So I know the boss fight to its micro moments where it's like you're almost playing Dance Dance Revolution, where it's like, okay, left, up, go in for the attack, back up, he'll probably do one of two moves here, turn around, and then go through you just keep going through that. But if I mess up any of those steps, I'll just go ahead and restart, right? But I did that for like 3 hours or something, and I was getting so angry because I would start the boss fight and it would tap me and I couldn't dodge by accident. I'd be like, fuck you, gonna start over, just like, you're ruining this for me. But then you forget that FromSoft games are all about changing your play style or your build to that boss. And after 3 hours, and I was getting so angry, I went away, got lunch, got food, came back, and I completely redid a build. And I got to that boss fight. I did the boss fight within 2 tries. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's all about the customization. It's all about learning about how to best a boss. And this is what I think is maybe different a little bit from Souls, where it is similar, where you have to adapt to the boss, right? But Armored Core gives you so much more flexibility in the way that you build your mechs or your character versus a Souls game. Because in Souls games, you would go in with your build, you would change maybe the style at which you use it, but you were still using your build. Where in Armored Core, there had been 3 boss fights where I banged my head against the wall, like losing my mind. And then I just changed the build entirely, and it works out just like incredibly well. So all the hardest boss fights I was able to beat just by changing my build or realizing that I need to change the build. But it goes back to this thing where it's like the gamer in you does not just thinks like, you can do it. Like, you're getting so close with your current build. You're so close doing it. So I'll just try 60 more times. So again, the beauty of like FromSoft is this madness that is like self-inflicted, if you will.
Yeah, there is something about being a gamer, just being super stubborn. It's like, no, I like this build. I want to use this. I can do this. And then you just do it like 50 more times, even though like, oh, if I just actually go back and like fix something, like it will work out. I've not actually played any of the FromSoft games, but like the closest like FromSoft, I guess like the only Souls like I've played is like Wolong, and I had a very not similar experience. I'm gonna say that like I think you either go again 2 ways. You get so frustratingly angry you want to throw something, or you just like collapse and cry, and I'm a collapse and cry kind of person. When I was doing my playthrough on stream, it was like several hours of gameplay, and you could see just me just like shriveling up slowly over time. Like I start like really excited, and I'm just like slowly getting more and more depressed, and then like same as you, I think like I go in, I fight, and then like I die straight away, and then I restart. And then one of my Shadow said, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. And it's
it's just going to recycle. Literally, that is like the format of like Souls-like games, right? It's like the format of it is just repeated madness. And it's one of those things where if you don't change the way you're doing something, it is literally that adage, right? Where it's like insanity is doing something over and over again without like changing it or something along those lines. It's literally that. Like there's no truer expression than these types of games. Oh,
how satisfying is it when you overcome it though?
So this is a really interesting one that I wanted to bring up, right? Where it is so weird because the body chemistry that you get from a Souls game is that I didn't experience it in this game, I would say, which I want to talk to other people who have played this game and let me know in the chat if you felt similar. But this is one that I feel like I want to bring up with folks that have played Armored Core. In Souls games, you get to the part of the boss where you see the health is super low and your health is super low and your heart is pounding. Like literally your heart is pounding because it's like one small error on your side could blow this entire run, and you don't know if you're ever going to get to this like a level of success in this boss fight in the foreseeable future. So you're sweating, your heart is pounding, and you're just like, once you beat the boss, you're just giant sigh of relief and you're just like deflated as a person and be like, I am complete, right? That is the Souls like experience that I have with a lot of Souls games. I don't think I experienced that in Armored Core, which is really weird. And I'm trying to understand why, where the bosses are similar and are challenging and they follow that format. But for some reason, there's this thing where I get close to that feeling where my heart is beating a little bit. But when I beat the boss, I kind of feel like, oh, great, let's move on, as opposed to like, my God, let's go celebrate. Let's go. Like, I'm going to shout this through them. I'm going to tweet about this. You know what I mean? So, and I was trying to figure out why, where I think like what I'm struggling with in Armored Core is a bit more the fact that you can customize your mech so much easier than you can customize your characters in Souls-like games maybe is to its detriment to feeling like that level of accomplishment. Because like I said, when I was able to best a boss, the hardest bosses in the game, in my opinion, is just because I built my entire mech differently. And then I overcame it quite quickly after. As opposed to like Souls games where you have that one build that you've invested in, you followed through almost the entire like 20-hour playthrough, but you know that build can still work, so you try over and over again. I think that's where I didn't feel that level of like deep euphoria when beating bosses, but it is similar. So I think like I don't know if this is just a me thing where maybe the world isn't connecting with me as much compared to like high fantasy, but I don't know. I didn't feel that as much, but I really want to start that conversation with other folks that have played it. But it's been one of those things on my mind.
I mean, I guess the fact that it is a bunch of robots fighting each other just makes it a bit more removed from like the human experience. So it could just be that visually as well. But on the topic of the robots, like I've also seen some like really funny builds on Twitter of people like obviously like replicating like the builds of like Evangelion or like Gundam. What was your build like?
Okay, so I'll start with a funny story, right? So we streamed it on our first night of review, and I obviously wanted to build my Ava Unit 2 build, right? And it kind of worked out. I couldn't follow the colors, and I like scrapped it pretty easily. But I thought to myself, well, I'll first say that the customization options in Armored Core is one of the coolest customization menus and mechanics in games ever, in my opinion. And maybe the reason why I say that, and I know it's kind of a bold statement, is because I haven't seen a mech game customization in like, maybe because like mech games aren't as like highly popular in like the public zeitgeist, if you will, or like the pop culture zeitgeist. But you've seen so many human character creations and you build like, oh, Kratos is in Baldur's Gate 3, like great, right? But like mech customization, like the fact that like you said, I see so many Evangelion, so many Gundam, so many, I saw some dude do a Petronas like inspired build where it's like the Petronas gray and then the Petronas logo on the thing itself, like because you can actually put custom like images and logos as well.
I've seen the Among Us one where it's like a film like
literally, yeah. So again, the customization is awesome, and it's like you can literally create the mech that you've always wanted in this game, which is awesome. But the personal one that I had was like, look, Barbie came out very recently. I was like, you know what would be so menacing? A mech that is Barbie inspired. That's like bright pink, hot pink, and it's shredding through a bunch of characters in like this giant mech kind of way. So we did this in chat on my Twitch channel, and we called it BARB, like or BARB3 or something along those lines.
Right,
you know what I mean?
like Valhalla, but it's like
yeah, exactly. And the funniest comment that we got is like every main mission is called a sortie. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, sortie in French, and that's your main mission kind of menu. And I remember, I think it was Paul Despawn who dropped it in the live chat. He was like, "Come on, Barbie, let's go sortie." And that was the whole energy of my bright pink Barbie mech going through Armored Core missions. But yeah, like I just say, like I love the customization on it. It's awesome. It's like quite killer to watch up guides, and then you see their builds. I was like, oh my god, I know that robot. Like I can build that as well, and it's so cool that you can customize. But I had a lot of fun doing the customization.
Nice. I guess like just to sort of wrap up the review a little bit, like I guess like one, would you recommend it, and two, like who is it for, like Armored Core?
So I'll answer that second question first, because I think that's also really interesting, where Armored Core is a FromSoft game through and through. And what I mean by that is people that have played FromSoft games understand this cycle of choosing your build, going through the mission, getting your ass kicked, learning from the boss, changing your build a little bit, losing some more, but then eventually beating the boss. And that cycle goes through, and then you finish the game, and then you have no idea what's happening in the story, so you look up a Vati video on YouTube that describes the lore. That whole scenario is literally every single FromSoft game, and it is true here in varying degrees, but that is the Armored Core experience, and that is the FromSoft experience. So I will say, like, if you're a fan of the Souls games, if you're like me and you're a fan of Souls games and you are interested in like more mech-oriented worlds and builds, this is totally like one for you. But also it's one of those ones where like, I just think if you have liked mech as a genre, like mecha anime, mech, like giant robots, kaiju stuff like that involves mechs, you should definitely check this out, because it does fill that power fantasy of you are a giant robot fighting other giant robots, but also you might find other giant robots and entities to fight, and it is the coolest epic feeling boss fights in this like mech world, because I feel like you often see a lot of high fantasy boss fights, and like, you know, I just think about like, you know, over the top bosses, but to me, seeing a giant transformer like thing, and I'm like, I have to fight that. I know I'm a giant robot. I have to fight that giant thing, that planet sized. You know what I mean? Like, is such a cool experience. So I will say, like, it's for people like that. The negatives on it is that it does feel a little bit archaic on its design. Like I said, menus, mission, side mission, very straightforward. There is no interaction beyond voice, like dialogue. So it's a really interesting choice. Everything is told to you via these voice memos and these mission briefs and stuff like that. And like I said, it's just missing that magic element of Souls games where you feel deep euphoria when beating the boss. I don't know if that's a personal thing or if it's other thing that people's experience is. But also the environment of Armored Core is a little bit dry for me because everything is boxy and robots and like square and gray for the most part, and red and gray is pretty much the entire color palette of the entire game. So if that excites you, that's awesome. It didn't excite me as much, but I think it was a little bit one-dimensional. But all that said and done is what an interesting simulation of this mech world, and it does feel like a stepping stone for FromSoft to be like, Armored Core is back as one of our temple franchises, and we'll do the Souls games as well. And both of these things will run in tandem to make us like dominate this the gaming industry with this format. So it is great. It is awesome. Thanks again to Bandai Namco for sending that code over and the nice stuff over. But go make your mechs, everybody. Go build your Reno inspired mech.
Yeah, I mean, I love customization. If like, hey, like Bandai Namco, just release a game. It's just like customize your mech and that's it. It's like
pure custom. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. It's gonna be like, what's that fashion game? Like that. There's like a fashion
the
game,
dress
right?
up,
the dress up one, but like but just mechs. You know,
exactly.
put me on the mech fashion show.
Sometimes that feels like what this is on its customization. You know what I mean? Like legit, I just go on Twitter and it's like, are you guys even playing the game? It's just you're just making Hello Kitty mechs. You know, like
that is the game. No, but cool. It sounds great. It sounds like you had a great, maybe not a great time all the time, but like overall, like a good experience. What else has been happening for you? Like video games aside, what other games have you been playing?
Yeah, I wanted to spend some time talking about some. Look me in the eye, everybody. Those that are watching the 20M podcast here on the YouTube channel. Hi, my name is Arief. I'm a huge nerd. And as many of y'all know, I love Magic the Gathering. And I just want to spend some time, Reno, by sharing a little bit of a story about I did pre-release weekend for Magic the Gathering for their new set called Wilds of Eldraine. And I went to a pre-release event, which for those that don't know, essentially when new sets drop, like Wizards of the Coast who do Magic, they have like your local TCG stores all around the world do a scenario where you have these pre-release boxes that allow people to come in, build a deck based off of like cards they get in that box, and then fight against other players and then like climb the leaderboards for that event. So it's kind of like a casual mini tournament, but all for the purposes of getting to know the new cards in the set and also the new mechanics in the set, whilst like making friends and being a part of the community.
Before you buy kind of scenario, but with
you buy
a
it.
Community. You buy it.
Yeah,
you
buy.
Yes.
You buy it. But try before you buy even more. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'll just say like this experience was such a beautiful one because it kind of epitomizes why nerd communities are so awesome. And I'd love to get your take and like if you've kind of like experienced anything similar when regarding communities, right? But Magic the Gathering has always been kind of those like super nerdy, like people smell and like people are gross and they're just such nerds and they have like a lack of social skills. Like that has been kind of the stigma for Magic for so long. But now the Magic is becoming a lot more popular and mainstream. I feel like so many people are coming into the game and there's nothing more beautiful than people celebrating their love for like a property, which is Magic. And I feel like that energy exists in pre-release. So I went with my housemates and I went with a couple of friends to a pre-release at our local card game store, Classroom Cafe. That's one of our favorite stores here. And we showed up and it was a packed house and all of us were doing pre-release and we assembled our little decks. And it was such a beautiful thing to like go through that experience, build your decks, get to know the cards, but also play against other people throughout the night, but just chat about like them and their history with Magic and what they're excited for in the past, where they started. And to me, I just had a moment where like you're complete strangers, you're getting your ass kicked by their pre-release deck and whatever, but it's like, oh dude, like I started around the same time as you. It's like, oh my god, do you remember this card that like came out during that time? Or hey, remember when they used to add books in the packs versus like what they have now? And it's like a nostalgia thing, but also you talk to people that are like, oh man, this is my second ever pre-release and like I'm really new to the game, so I don't mind if I lose, but just like tell me if I'm doing something wrong kind of a scenario. It is a beautiful experience. So I loved that that community. So I just wanted to gush about how much I love Magic the Gathering. I wanted to gush about how much I love the pre-release format. And I love that Magic is bringing more people into the game and making it much more accessible, because it is this perfect amalgamation of like nerdy stuff, but also like this community-based like force that connects people together with every new set that drops.
Yeah, I think there's like kind of like two things there that I really resonated with. Like, you know, all of us growing up individually, having our own experiences with games and all of that. But then when you leave that and when you're an adult and you meet someone who had that exact same experience with you, and you just vibe instantly because like, oh, you remember when we did that thing, and it's like, oh, when that card came out. Like, I totally get that for like, you know, other communities that I'm part of. But the other thing that I guess is really important, especially with growing community, is like making sure you're looking after the newbies that are coming in. So being really inclusive, like not gatekeeping and all of that. And it sounds like, you know, where you were playing is very much of that vein of like, whatever your experiences with Magic, just come in and just come hang out kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like I love, because like you get people of different ages as well that are joining Magic. And I remember it's like the one experience I had recently, which was not a pre-release, but this guy came in with his whole family. He had 2 kids, his wife, and they were all just like supporting his hobby, which was really cute. But it was his first time playing Magic. And I was just like teaching him, I was like, yo, dude, sit down with me. Let's just learn the game. And it's awesome because he played another TCG, so he picked it up really quick. And I just had that beautiful one-on-one experience with him. And then at this like previous session, like I saw him walking around. I was like, oh, hey man, how are you? It's good to see you. I was like, oh yeah, dude, it's like I've got these things since the, you know, it's such a cool thing to see people invest in a thing that sucks away all your money, but also love it at the same time. I'll end the Magic story by saying there's one thing that I think you'd be really interested in. So the Wilds of Eldraine set is fairy tale inspired, because every Magic set is different. They commissioned an anime studio to do like a trailer for this upcoming for this set, and it's all fairy tale inspired, and it's by a company called Puro Co. So they're the people behind Yu Yu Hakusho. And it's like a Fable, kind of like one of those really old anime studios that have just been around for forever. But they did an anime intro for this set, and I think it's awesome. It is kick-ass, and it's one of those things again where they have anime inspired cards throughout this entire set, and there's waifus and there's like your rip-offs of like what you would typically know as like anime properties, but they just look awesome and so cool. And the fact that you can have Magic the Gathering kind of collaborate in this kind of style to bring in that type of fandom and that type of nerd interest as well into the game is such a cool thing to me.
They're like, who have they not collaborated with at this point? I feel like they've been able to touch like every subculture in like the nerd space at this point. And I'm like really okay. I don't know how building board games or card games work, right? But like, how do you introduce new cards without like? I'm sure there's some kind of balance you have to like avoid upsetting, right?
Yeah.
Like it's I find that so fascinating, and we gotta get someone.
Right, we gotta get a Magic designer onto it. It's literally wizardry, which is probably why they're called wizards on the code. It doesn't make sense to do all the math to make sure that every card set is like 100 cards that come in, right? And you do that every 2 months or something like that. Yeah, it's just insane. Like Doctor Who collaborations coming out. They did the Lord of the Rings collaboration. They
like
did Arcane.
The
Cyberpunk inspired one. I'm surprised they haven't collaborated with Cyberpunk. They just announced Final Fantasy is coming. Assassin's Creed is coming. Warhammer's already there. Like Magic is awesome. We should play it, and I can't wait to play more Magic the Gathering.
Awesome. How did you do with the comp?
Oh, so I did actually. This is the best performance that I've actually throughout my entire history of Magic the Gathering. I come in last place at every pre-release that I've done over the years. Dead last, Reno. Like win 1 game out of like 8. You know, this time I actually did really well. I pulled a really good card, and I beat one of the people that worked there, which was like a nice thing. We technically tied, but like I won. Leader. Yeah, I literally you're feeling like you beat the gym leader. And then I played with another person. I kicked his ass completely. And then the third game, I think we drew as well. But it's just like the fact that I actually won just gave me so much euphoria as well. But it's because I've been playing Magic every single week for the past year. So I've been definitely upping my game. Yeah, literally training. You're showing him a training arc, right? It's up to this point. It's like I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point, like 16 cards on the side. But it's really fun at the end of the day. It's genuinely it's so stupid, but it's like about the friends that you genuinely meet there. It's just awesome community experience.
Yeah. Awesome.
But Reno, enough about Magic the Gathering. I want to talk about something that's super exciting on your end. Tell me about this social post that you put up yesterday announcing that Reno, freelance journalist, awesome content creator, co-host of the 20M podcast, will be at a certain trade show. Reno, tell me about what you just posted yesterday.
Yeah, so I guess like the announcement is official, which is why I went out with it yesterday. I'm going to be at Gamescom Asia. I'm invited as a panelist. I cannot remember the name of my panel, but it's something to do with media and how game companies can approach media, basically. And I'm really excited. I'm definitely a bit nervous because I'm on a panel with like some pretty heavy hitters in the industry. We've got Sean from Gamer Braves. We've got Daniel Robson from IGN Japan. We've got a guy named James who I think works at Portland Comms, which is a pretty big media agency. And we're being moderated by, I don't want to butcher his last name, so I'm just going to call him by his first name. His name is Kay. He's a guy out from the Middle East, and I think they work with publishing in games. So a lot of like pretty big people in the industry, and then there's like me.
Are you kidding me? Come on, like famed journalists that everybody wants to be friends with on Twitter and Instagram, writing amazing stuff for numerous publications all around the world, killing it, getting it on one of those like review score thingies with their Raincode review that's like percolated throughout Twitter. Come on, like you are a heavy, although newer, I think you're a heavy hitter nonetheless. But that's flipping awesome that you're a panelist at Gamescom Asia.
I will talk a little bit about posting it yesterday, right? So we got the email and then they've already, prepared all the assets for us really nicely, different formats and kind of like suggested copy. And I was like, oh, I'll kind of put my own spin on it. And I think it literally took me like over an hour, which is how I know I'm like not young anymore. It took me this long to like produce 3 posts across Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And on LinkedIn, you want to like search everyone up and make sure that you're tagging the right accounts and all of that, and it all goes out. But I was like, oh, like I'll try and make it a bit more personal and a bit more targeted to Singapore because Gamescom Asia is held in Singapore. So I think my first line was like, "Hello Singapore, I'm ready for your like Hainanese chicken rice recommendations because I'll be coming in October." And then like I think within like 20 minutes, someone actually messaged me a Hainanese chicken rice recommendation in Singapore.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just like the funniest thing. I haven't actually looked at it yet, admittedly. I think the person is from like a previous like arrangement we've met in like my career. And I think they're based in Singapore, but it's just like, oh, hello, here's my recommendation. I'm like, they're so sweet.
That's really cute.
Yeah. Really, really excited to do the panel. I don't know if we want to talk about all the other stuff that we'll be involved in. So on my side, in my personal capacity, there's this panel. And then I'm also going to be moderating a segment at the Creator Summit about cosplay. So I guess more to come in that space because they're still like kind of like in the period of announcing it. But I think that's like public information. But what about you, Arief? What do you want to share with
I'll say first of all that the 20am podcast is an official media partner at Gamescom Asia. We are on the website right now, which is I think one of those surreal moments where I'll just do this small little spiel about games media, right? Like one, we are a podcast format. We are it's a collaboration project between the two of us that have our parallel kind of like experiences in the games industry that come together for this to try to do more content that we wouldn't do on our individual paths, right? So it's cool to be recognized as media, and I think it's awesome, and major love to the Gamescom Asia folks. But it is this weird one where like you have all the major Southeast Asian gaming publications that are there, which is awesome because you see folks, like I said, the whole Gamer Braves consortium of media folks. You have IGN Southeast Asia, you have IGN Japan too. But to have the 20am podcast on there is awesome because it kind of embraces this thing where like you can get different things from all of us, where we, the amount of times that we reference the folks at Gamer Braves or the folks at IGN, whether they be Japan or Southeast Asia, but you read their article format or you watch their video, right? I just think it's so cool that we can come in with a podcast offer. Hey, this is like podcast formats that we can work with and cover the show. So this whole spiel is just like, it's awesome that we're there. We will be there interviewing folks and having a bit of presence at the 20am podcast. But it's just so cool where people who are at Gamescom that want to watch coverage or consume coverage of Gamescom, you can do that in multiple different fashions and via multiple different publications. So it's just a cool celebration to be among some amazing friends that are out there in the media community as well, which I love. I guess for me, is my thing announced yet, Reno? Can I share that? I actually don't know. I don't know. I'll say it now, and then if it isn't, I'm going to cut it. I will be hosting the Creator Summit at the Gamescom Asia for the second day of the Gamescom Asia conference. So what the Creator Summit is basically a coalition of a bunch of folks that are in the creator space throughout Asia, throughout the world, that are coming to share on a bunch of different topics, like their careers in creating content, their tips for creating content, but also conversations around how they use their previous experiences that could help future creators as well, or to navigate things like publisher relations, how to up your game, how to gain new audiences, or just a reflection on how they grew to, their millions of subscribers that they have. So I'll be hosting that entire conference, which is I think just super cool that I get to be surrounded by some awesome creators. I'm really excited for that.
I think it's really great that Gamescom Asia is, man, that sounds like an ad, but like truly. I think it's really great that they are formalizing this sort of like creator summit where creators can come and learn, because like a lot of people still have this like, well, I personally think it's incorrect, but a lot of people think that, creators, like who are creators? Like what does it mean to be a content creator? But so many people are making bankers. Some people are doing it full time and doing it really, really well, but it's all still sort of like mystified because no one is taking it seriously. But it's like, no, this can be a viable career path for some people. It can be a great hobby, a great way to meet people. Let's actually just get everyone in a room and talk about it and see how we can grow, what support is still needed. And yeah, like I think one of the things highlighted is like they'll be talking about how you can work professionally more with like companies, with brands, with media, which I think, a lot of creators are inherently very creative, but they might lack sort of like the business know-how and how to interact. So it should be a pretty good day.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so excited. And I'll just share that like I was a panelist last year at Gamescom Asia, and major love to Andreas for Virtual Southeast Asia for hosting that panel. We did a panel on Southeast Asian games. So I just major love to him to bring me into the Gamescom Asia ecosystem. But other than the panels and the professional stuff that we're doing, I cannot wait for Gamescom Asia, man. Like the fact that you get to hang out with all your industry friends, whether they be at the parties, whether they be at the event show itself, seeing all the booths. Like, again, I know this is not an ad. This was not solicited. Like just the love for trade shows is something that I just feel such affinity for, because it's where you can bring all the people that you interact with on Twitter in the game side of things or content side of things, and then see them in real life, hang out in real life. It is just such a magical experience. I had so much fun last year. I can't wait to just rock that show with us. And if you're there at Gamescom, like honestly, like if you're there, it's open to the public. Say if you see us walking around the trade show floor, like say hello. We might be losing our minds, be a little bit busy, but look, let's hang out. Let's get to know each other. If you're a dev watching this, like reach out. We'd love to cover any of the stuff that will be at the show too. But I just can't wait.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. Yeah, if we're going to be around, we're still finalizing, I guess, like our full plans, but we should be there all 4 days. If you're, if you listen to a podcast, please feel free to come over and say hi. Yeah, if you're a dev publisher or anyone in the game space, we're always open to chat and see how we can work with you. It's awesome.
Yes, but Rino, there's something coming up that's a little bit closer than Gamescom Asia, because that's in October. What is going on in the next 2 weeks, Rino?
That's in our lead up this episode.
It's so kitschy. Yeah, it's so funny.
Well, I mean, by the time this podcast comes out, it will be even closer. So it is worth announcing that Tokyo Game Show.
That's so anticlimactic.
It's like you're racing towards the finish line, you just like fall flat on your face. Let me try again. Tokyo Game Show for 2023 will be here at the time of recording, I think it's like 2.5 weeks. So it's definitely one of like globally the most exciting conventions. People love coming to Japan, and now, all the more reason to come. I'll be there. Arief will be there. 20M will be there in a formal capacity as media as well. God, it's just all ads right now. But for me, again, like as Arief was saying, a great space for everyone on the internet that interacts with to come together. Like me personally, like I work from home like 7 days a week, right? So I don't really get to talk to a lot of people aside from like people on the internet. So I'm like genuinely excited to meet Arief, to meet Jun, to meet, a whole bunch of other people who are going to be coming from Southeast Asia to Japan. And this is going to be the first like properly open Tokyo Game Show since the pandemic, because last year was fully open, but I think foreign travel was still quite restricted. So not many folks could come in. And then the past 2 years prior was like online or like canceled. So this feels like, and I think they've even come out to say it as well, this is like the biggest it's ever been. So really, really excited for this.
Yeah, and I guess, like I said, this is such a cool one for us because we'll both be there. Oftentimes, I think in the past, we're starting to get into this era where we're covering in-person stuff as well as the 20M podcast, but we are kind of like been removed. Like your Bit Summit thing on coverage of the 20, I know with some other publications as well, but the coverage we did on 20M was very much you. Animangaki was very much me. Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom Asia will be us, and I cannot wait to have both of us kind of just like cause chaos at these
strangling each other to death.
Like if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth like drops a new trailer and they have a booth, like Reno, I will push people out of the way like with my, like with giant, like my Kojima merch in hand or whatever, and be like, get out of the way, everybody. Like, I don't care what's going on. Like, we need to play that game. And I know you'll be judging me or restricting me from doing that at the show itself. But how was your?
I think we've evolved. Like, okay, like at the beginning, I would definitely be like, oh my god, you're such a loser for doing this, or like vice versa. But now I'm just at the point where like I'm really happy we like different things, because you're gonna do your thing, I'll do my thing, and ultimately we're gonna be better people, individuals for it. So
I'll step over some kids to play Final Fantasy. Oh, you're better for that. Yes.
So just don't get arrested, because I don't know if I can bail you out.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. But like TGS will be super exciting. Maybe just the last thing for you was like, how was your TGS experience last year, and what can we expect from TGS this year?
Last year was my first time at TGS, and I was like really nervous but excited. And I think it was just like overwhelming, because the venue, which is called Makuhari Messe, which is just a general venue for a lot of big events and concerts and things like that. It's like 9 giant like warehouses, that kind of thing. And then they're all kind of connected through doorways. But every time you walk in and say it's like a big, if it's like PlayStation or if it's like Square Enix, it's just like a huge, like larger than life booth. And it's quite powerful in a way. I think, again, like just one of those moments where you're a gamer and your experience with the IP is very much just like on the screen, and then you see it and it's like bigger, like 100 times bigger than yourself, and you're like, wow. And there's like so many people there. But then I think for me, what I ended up doing was just hanging around the indie booth a lot, just because it was a lot more chill, and it's a pretty big space where there's a lot of games concentrated there, and it's really easy to get to talk to developers and just like get some merch, get to know people. That was the first time I met the folks at Passion Republic Games when they had Gigabash out there. My first time meeting Sean, who does Cuisiner. I think Toge was there. Sorry, not Toge. I think Coffee Talk was there with Chorus. But
Chorus,
then
yep.
At the very last minute, apparently Toge also had their own booth. And then I met this Indonesian guy who was so sweet. He lives in Osaka. He came all the way to Tokyo Game Show I think at a whim. Maybe Chris or someone called like, hey, can you just rock up? And there was nothing at the booth except his laptop, like just a laptop, like nothing there. Yeah. And I only knew it was Toge because on the map it had printed their name there. I got there and he's like, yeah, it's just me. And like came really suddenly.
That's
I'm
awesome.
Like, dude, it's great. Like, great to have you. And, really, really nice guy. There was like
I think that's why like that's what the beauty of like you can add these kinds of trade shows compared to like maybe some smaller trade shows like Bit Summit or Level Up KL that's coming up. It's like you can have the giant presence of like the huge multi-million-dollar booths, but then you can also celebrate the indie ecosystem where it could just be like a table and a laptop, but all those things are very like valid to exist in the video games industry. So that's what I'm excited about for a Tokyo Game Show. Like I'll run from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, again, no insider news, I just really hope it's there, to the indie area where I'll play some like really wacky weird indies and have a great time. But yeah, you were saying what was there last year?
It's hard not to get swept away by stuff even if you're not familiar with it. Like I was around the Atlas booth for a while for some reason, and there were like giant like statues and things like that, and I'm like, this is before I played Persona 5, and I'm just like, I don't know anything about this, but I'm gonna take photos now because like future me is gonna like this game and will be really happy that she did this. So there was like a Morgana walking around, super cute, yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna like this at some point, so I'll just get some photos. So that was super cool. And then just going back to the indie booth, there was this like really like almost like I can't like someone had to have scripted this, right? Because I basically highlighted every indie publisher or dev that was either from Southeast Asia or from Australia, just because these are like the countries I've spent a lot of time with and resonate with. And there was only one booth that said like from Australia. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check it out. And so I get there and it's like a Japanese guy. He was just there representing the dev, and the game is called Gibbon Beyond the Trees. It's about like monkeys swinging. It's really, really beautiful, kind of like watercolor art style. And there's like a theme about deforestation as well. So I'm standing there, I'm like, oh my God, this game is so beautiful. And it's on the Steam Deck. It's actually my first time trying out the Steam Deck. I'm just chatting to the guy. And I'm like, oh man, in Japanese, like, oh man, it's such a great game to come up from Australia. And he's like, oh yeah, like Austrian games are great. And I was like, oh, maybe my Japanese is not right. I was like, yeah, like, which part of Australia is it from? And he's like, he looks at me, he's like, this is from Austria. And I was like, you're joking. This is the worst. If this is a joke, it's like the worst joke of my entire life. And so I pulled out the map and I showed it to him. Like, it says here Australia, and he's like, "Oh, that's wrong, man."
Oh my God!
So I'm like gushing over this game, talking about my Australian experience, and he's like, dude, just like, what is up with this girl?
I mean, it doesn't help that it's like a swinging monkey that's like going through like the forest. He kind of like, that's so Australian, right? It's like, oh man, like that's the plight of like, and again, and not that we're bashing anything. It's like the plight of just giant trade shows that just like there's like 6 billion logistics you have to take care of. The one mishap is just such a funny story to have.
I was like, am I in the Mr. Bean skit or something? Like, come on, like authors up there, like, are you listening to my feedback? Do better.
Oh man, I can't wait to have so many of those moments in Tokyo Game Show. this
that is one. Yeah, that is probably like one last thing I'd like to say. Like, it's in Japan, everyone there speaks Japanese, but somehow everyone also makes it work with like hand gestures, with broken English, broken Japanese, broken whatever language you speak. Like somehow, like everyone just speaks. It's so cheesy. Just speaks the language of video games, and you just make it work on the day. And I think that's really, really awesome.
Yeah. I'm really excited, and people talk about TGS so fondly as well. And just to be in Japan is going to be super exciting. But again, like I cannot wait to. And if there's people that are consuming from Japan, because Reno is based in Japan, and I feel like we have a couple people subscribing that are from Japan. Like, let's connect, let's meet if you happen to like bump into us at the show. But like, I'm just so excited to be amongst like friends who I can't see at Southeast Asian trade shows too. That will be at this more international conference. So, God, I can't wait for this. Reno would be super exciting. What can subscribers like? Expect from us?
No, if we announce it now, then they're holding.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what we're gonna do. Yeah, expect some stuff from us, like in Japan as well. So hopefully,
we're gonna vlog a bit more, which will be new for us. I mean, you did a little bit at Animangaki with the interviews and all, but hopefully, Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom and a couple of things leading up to it will be us being together in person and filming stuff outside, which would be great.
Yes. So we'll change our entire 20M podcast to a travel show, kind of like vlog video. It's like my 10 hours in Japan with Rina or something.
We're gonna change the 20M to like the 10HR podcast, 10 hours. The 10-hour podcast.
Oh, I get it. Man, I'm excited. I can't wait. This has been, again, awesome for us to share with the folks that are on the 20th podcast, like listen to the 20th podcast, like our experience with the video games, but also get into the in-person world a little bit. So like I said, I can't emphasize this enough. If you see us, say hello. Like the 20th podcast was built earlier this year with the purpose of like connecting and sharing stories from like us, but also the people that we have on interviews. But there's nothing more beautiful to me than like connecting with folks that have been watching our stuff over the past like couple months too, because I feel like compared to Twitch, YouTube is still a little bit like bi-directional. Like we don't engage too much, but please let's hang out. Let's be together.
Let's be together. Is that how we're ending it?
Yeah, I guess so.
I do have one other story from this week. I don't know if I should share it.
Please let's end on that. Let's end on a high note. What is this?
My story about Toma.
Oh my God. Can you, all right, lay it up for the rest of the people that are watching, please.
Okay. If you have been following any of my channels, if you've ever listened to the 20M podcast, you guys know that I play Genshin Impact, and my main character is a character named Toma. So Toma's a 4-star character. He's notoriously a very bad character, but I've been very invested in just making him viable and good. So Toma has an English voice actor named Christian Bannis. And I've been following him since Toma was released. I really like his work. I think he did a great job, capturing Toma's character and his essence and all. But I've always been too shy to interact, so I've just been like a silent follower. And I think he's not too active on the platform anyway. But he, I think, was at PAX West and started posting a bit more. And I was just like looking at his post, and he like got a Toma from Kinokuniya, which I think is kind of similar to the badge you got from me, also from Kinokuniya, I think. And I was like, you know what, like, fuck it, like, shoot my shot. I'm just gonna write the most unhinged tweet to him, and he's got 70K followers. No way he's gonna see it, right? So I wrote to him, and I was like, Mr. Bannis, I am the world's #1 Toma main. I have 3 different Toma builds. I have C6'd him, triple crowned, and like I don't know what else. just like absolutely like mental. And then like to make it at all like relevant, or like to put some kind of message in there besides just being insane, at the bottom I was like, it would be great to see you at a con in Japan or Southeast Asia. And then was just like that.
I feel so embarrassed for you. I don't often feel embarrassment for you because you're a pretty cool person. This is I feel so weird about this.
And then he liked it, and I was like, all right, cool. He saw it. He's just gonna like it and move on. And then he replied, And it was like something like, wow, your Toma sounds so amazing. As if like, like a 5-year-old showing you like their toy
exactly.
car.
Oh, this is a great drawing. Oh my God.
So I'm sitting here like, okay, like I'm just gonna write something back. That's cool. And I'm just sitting there like writing, rewriting. And then like I get a DM, like a notification, and I click on it. It's like, no freaking way. Like he like DM'd me and was like such a cool guy. He's like, oh, hey, sorry for the random DM. If you want to, if you showcase your Toma to me, like, I'll send you a print, just like kind of like casual stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is it, guys. This is it. And I'm like in my Discord to my community, like screaming at them, like, I need to record my Toma right now. Boot up Genshin for like the first time in like a month. Like, like blow dust off my characters. I'm like, come on, kids, let's go.
We've got work to do. Get it together.
I'm like recording it, and then like it takes me like a couple of rounds. I just want to get like the perfect one where like Toma doesn't get hit. Everything just goes perfectly, because it's like a very specific Toma version team that's going to do a lot of damage. I get the perfect shot, realize I'm not recording. I'm like, fuck, do it again. And then like it takes me like about 10 times. And then, like, while all this is happening, I think he also, the VA also like followed me on Twitter, which is like honestly just made me like melt down into like nothing, right? And I'm like, how do we cool? All right. And then my Twitter banner is now like Toma. And then just like that he followed me, and I'm like, this is like whatever. Like I have nothing left to lose anymore.
Correct.
But yeah, so I put my build up on Twitter. It went semi-viral because he retweeted it. A lot of people wrote back. It was really, really sweet. And it just made me realize like everyone who follows him must be a Toma fan. And there's only like 5 of us in the world right now. It's like all 5 of us are like now connected through this, because I got a lot of people being like, oh, how did you build this? And then like, oh, I want to try this. And I was just really, really, I'm glad. Like 3 years playing Genshin led up to this moment.
Yeah, there's been very few times that we've known each other for a significant amount of time now. That's like not that long at the end of the day, but like still, like I've never seen you fangirl this hard, like ever, and it is so out of character, because you're usually cool, down to earth, and you don't show it too much. But this one is just like, this is like meeting your idol. It's like, this is like, you've met your hero in real life, even though like Toma isn't real. Sorry. But like, you know what I mean? Like the amount of Toma jokes that we've
saying that to me this week. Why?
Hey, he's not real. Like, come back to us. You've been very distant lately. Like, no, but it's just one of the moments I feel so happy and so proud, where it's like the unhinged stuff is, I think, funny internet content. You can do that bit and like project that out into the world, and it's all for fun and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that you can still have a genuine like connection with somebody like that is like that has birthed something that's so important to you, I think it's such a cool internet like thing. So this is awesome.
It's the longest. I'm so happy for you. You've to live.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but like, yeah, it was cool. I'm like, I think that's as a Genshin player. Like, I'm not particularly good at the game, but I know like this one thing that I can do really well that no one else has, which is like this stupid obsession with Toma, and how I've been able to make him into this great character. And like, I was like, oh my God, people are seeing it. And so I think it's got like 50K views on Twitter right now. I'm like, that's all I need. That's all I need.
Insane. Yeah, this is genuinely kick ass, and it's awesome. I can't wait for y'all to do like an IRL Japan vlog now at this point. Reno takes Toma around Shinjuku or something like that.
I don't know. At this point, I hope he doesn't like get a restraining order against me. But I'm cool. I'm very cool now. I'm chill.
You're a cool fan. You're a cool fan. We're cool. Everybody be cool. There's like everybody in the 20M podcast right now in the comments and it's hanging out there. Be cool, everybody. Don't blow this for us. All right. We got to keep the composure. Like, I'm being cool about it.
Yeah. All right. I guess before we sort of wrap this episode up on this insane note, if you are jumping onto our YouTube channel and you want to check out other videos, what would you recommend to them?
Well, for the first time ever, I'm extremely prepared for this layup, and I don't have to think about it and recall what we've done in the past week. We did a non-podcast episode on the YouTube channel. I think we did put it out on podcast formats, but we reviewed Goodbye Volcano High thanks to the lovely folks at Co-op. We did a review of this awesome kind of like visual novel, music, story-based interactive game called Goodbye Volcano High, and it is weirdly one of my game of the years in a year that is so stacked, and I share a lot of my thoughts on the review there, so please check that out. It's like, if you're a fan of Life is Strange, you're a fan of story-based games, you're a fan of music, if you're a fan of dinosaurs, go check that one out.
All the spots.
Yeah, that was the most recent episode of the podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you have a great week ahead, and we'll have lots to share just even in the next week to 10 days. You should be hearing from us pretty soon.
I can't wait. Very super special thing. Okay, bye everybody.
Take care. Bye.